Welcome class to lesson 6.4 for financial algebra. This section is called employee benefits. So in this lesson we're going to talk about the different types of benefits that you get while employed. So these aren't necessarily extra pay. These are additional things that your employer is going to give you on top of your salary. So we're going to calculate the value of certain employee benefits in this chapter, and we're going to start off with the vocabulary section. So this is our first vocabulary word, which is employee benefits. Now, employee benefits are a value-added option that an employer may choose to offer an employee. So these are things in addition to compensation, in addition to your salary, that you might get. So there's a number of different types of benefits that an employer can offer you. And let's move into our first one. So an employer may offer you a benefit known as insurance. Now there's different types of insurance. So insurance is health, life, or disability coverage that will pay for doctor visits, payouts upon death, or long-term care based on certain limitations. So one of the employee benefits that you might get is a type of health insurance. So they might offer you health, they might offer you life, they might offer you both, they might offer you more like disability coverage, but they're providing an additional benefit. Our next vocabulary word is retirement plan. Now, a retirement plan in this case is either a defined contribution or a defined benefit plan, and they're designed to help you receive income upon reaching retirement age. So we'll talk a little bit later about the difference between a defined contribution and a defined benefit plan, but it's something that your company's going to offer to help you pay your expenses while in retirement. So it's an additional benefit. They're helping you plan for your retirement years. The next vocabulary word we got on our list is stock ownership plan. Now, stock ownership, what does it mean to have a stock? If you have stock in a company, it means you're a part owner in the company. So a stock ownership plan, the definition for that word is where an employer rewards long-term employees with the option to purchase stock ownership in the company as part of their retirement plan, or to exercise and sell. So the thought process is simple. If you have a vested interest in the company that you're working for, you'll probably work harder, longer, and put your best effort forward. So companies give you the option to buy stock ownership in the company that you're working for so that you can make it better, and knowing that when you get ready to retire, you have some ownership interest and you've made the company better, thus improving your ability to maintain the pension long term. The next vocabulary word is child care leave. So when you grow up and mommy and daddy, or actually husband and wife, become mommy and daddy, or you have a child that you need to take care of, some companies are going to use the ability to give you child care as a benefit. So the definition is paid or unpaid time off to help offset the cost of child care expense, like daycare. Daycare can be very expensive, and sometimes children aren't of age to go to school yet, and since they can't go to school, you have to pay for someone to take care of them at home so you can go to work. And so some employers will offer child care leave, so you can leave and spend time off to take care of the child, or even have the option of having daycare services in the building so that you have a place to drop off your kids and you can go work. Alright, next vocabulary word is family health care. So one of the insurance types that we talked about earlier is health coverage. And so family health care is exactly that. It's health coverage that gives families access to preventative medical care as well as emergency care with a specified medical provider. So, for example, I've been a Kaiser baby forever. I've always gone to Kaiser. I've always been a Kaiser baby. So when the option came for me to choose the healthcare provider that my kids would grow up with, it was a simple move. I picked Kaiser, right? Now there's other options. There's Sharp. There's a ton of different hospital plans that you can go with depending on what you prefer. Some are more expensive than others, but the idea is if you go in and get preventative health care, physical every year, you go in when you feel a little sick, if you're preventing some emergency from coming about, you're going to live a healthier life and the cost goes down for a group of people. So that's family health care. The next vocabulary word is pension. Now, our book defines this as compensation an employee receives from an employer after retirement, And there are a couple different types of pension plans. There's a defined contribution plan where you're putting money in towards a long-term retirement, and the other one is a defined benefits plan where you're going to get paid a specific type of pay depending on how long you worked with the company. So both of them are different types of pensions, and essentially it's compensation an employee receives from an employer after retirement. Unemployment insurance is our next vocabulary word. Unemployment insurance is a government program that offers benefits to eligible employees who, through no fault of their own, have become unemployed. So if you do something wrong in a job and you get yourself fired, then you're not going to qualify for unemployment. If you decide to quit on your own, you're not going to qualify for unemployment. This unemployment is usually for employees when a company goes out of business or there's not enough work and an employee gets laid off. Then they qualify for these unemployment benefits, and it is a government program, usually paid out by the state. The next vocabulary word is a base period. Now, a base period is a determination of time that a former employee worked for the previous employer, and this period is used to determine the compensation they will receive from unemployment. So if I worked for a company for, let's say, a week, and then I was laid off, I probably wouldn't qualify for very much, if any, unemployment from that particular employer. Instead, the government agency uses a base period to determine how much I'm going to get paid based on how long I worked at that employer, with that employer. So the base period is just the determination of time that they're looking to calculate what your insurance benefit's going to be, how long you're going to get them for, and what the total percentage is. Last vocabulary word we have is workers' compensation. Now, workers' compensation is paid to employees who are injured while working at their jobs. The key thing about this one is that this is a no-fault coverage and is mandated by law. So if you ever start a business and you have employees, you are mandated by law to have workers' compensation coverage insurance. And workers' compensation is expensive because it's a no-fault coverage. So if you have employees at work, they slip, they fall, then this workers' compensation policy is going to pay out to that employee to cover their medical expenses and maybe even salaries while they're recovering. So workers' compensation is our last vocabulary word. Alright, let's get into example number 1. So when Liam was hired, he was earning $54,080 and given 5 days of paid vacation time. Now for each year he worked, he would gain another 2 days until he reached the maximum of 20 days. So how many paid vacation days does he get at the end of the 4 years, and how much will he make during that time while he's on vacation? And once we figure that problem out, we're going to do this algebraically. So if he earns X dollar, or if X represents the number of work years and Y represents the number of paid vacation days, write an algebraic expression that models the same relationship for the two variables with the scenario above. So Liam's example. So let's take a look at this. It might be easier to create a table to see how these vacation days are growing. So I'm going to create an XY table here, where X is the number of years worked and Y is going to be the number of paid vacation days. Okay, so how many days does he have when he first gets hired? Now when he first gets hired, that's year 0. He hasn't worked any time yet. It's his initial starting point. So he's worked 0 years, and he gets 5 paid vacation days. Now at the end of that 5th year, he begins year 1, a completed whole year. Think of like when a baby's born. When a baby's born, they're not born 1 year old. They get to 1 year old. Same thing when you get hired. You start at year 0 and you get to your 1st year anniversary. So in year 1, he has his 5 vacation days that they gave him. Plus now since he's completed a year, he gets another 2. So now he has a total of 7 days, right? And we're going to continue to do this until we get to completing his 4th years at the end of 4 years. So this is 1 year, then we got 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. All right, and if we do that, we know that he keeps his 5 plus 2 from the year 1, and then we're going to add another 2 for year 2's completed. So now he's got a total of 9 days. And we're going to keep going with that same pattern of adding 2 to the next year. And we're going to get to the next total vacation days of 11. And then, of course, when we get to the 4th year, we've added 2 4 times for a total of 13 years. I'm sorry, 13 days of paid vacation time. So using this table, we're able to create how long it's taken him, or it's taken him 4 years basically to get 13 days of vacation time. And then the question's asking us how much will he make during his vacation time. So we know he's got 13 days off. Well, how much did he make for the year? We're talking about the year. He made $54,080. And if we divide that by the 52 weeks in a year, because he gets paid weekly, right? Because we're talking about weeks of vacation. So if we break that up into 52 weeks for the year, he ends up making $1,040 per week. Now, work week is 5 business days, and he gets 13 vacation days. So if we're talking about his vacation days, right? 13 days out of a week. If we're talking about a week, right? So he's got 5 plus 5. That's 2 weeks. Plus 3 out of the 5 for the last week. That's going to be 1 whole week, and then we got 2 whole weeks, and then 60% of the next week. So we got 2.6 days, or 2.6 weeks of vacation. So if we take that $1,040 and we multiply that by the 2.6 days of vacation, the 2.6 weeks of vacation, he's going to end up getting $2,704 in paid vacation time from his weekly salary. Now, to move on to this algebraically, we need to use X and Y and represent them accordingly. Now, if I look back at my original table, where X is the number of years worked, right, because that's what we're doing for our algebraic here, it says X represents the number of years worked, right, and then Y represents the number of paid vacation days, right? So if we know that, what's happening with our Y? Our Y is continuously increasing by 2. That's our rate of change. And we know that this rate of change is constant, so I know that my algebraic expression is going to be linear. So the linear expression is y is equal to mx plus b, where m is the rate of change, so our rate of change is going to be 2. So if I'm trying to calculate y, which is the total number of paid vacation days, it's going to equal 2 times the number of x years worked, plus I get the 5 that I started with. So this linear expression, y is equal to 2x plus 5, is telling me that to calculate the number of paid vacation days, I'm going to have to multiply however many years I worked times 2 plus the 5 days that I got when I first got hired. Example number 2. So in this one, Mila's job offers her healthcare, and Mila's going to have to pay 12% of the total cost of the plan, and her job's going to pay the rest. So Mila is paid bi-weekly and notices that $88.50 is deducted from her gross paycheck from her portion of the healthcare plan. So how much does Mila's job contribute for the total coverage? And then we're going to solve this algebraically. So if Mila pays X dollars out of her bi-weekly paycheck, her portion of the healthcare cost, then Mila is contributing P percentage of the total cost of the plan, represent the cost of the plan in terms of X and Y. So here we go with the first problem. First of all, Mila is getting deducted $88.50. So $88.50. And we're going to multiply that by 26 weeks, because this is how much she's getting pulled out of her paycheck, and since she's getting paid bi-weekly, we're going to multiply that by 26 to give us what her deduction is for the whole year, right? For the whole year, the whole 26 paychecks, and it comes out to be $2,301. That tells us that her percentage, right? Remember, she's getting paid, or she's paying 12% of the total policy amount, the total health coverage. So that 2301 represents 12%. So if 12%, 0.12 represents the X cost of the plan, then her portion is 2301. So now we've set up an equation to help us figure out what the total cost of the plan. If I knew what X was, if I knew the total cost, and I multiply it by 12%, I would get Mila's portion. But I want to know what the total cost is. So I'm going to divide by 12% so that I get the total cost by itself, because I turn the other side to 1, and I divide Mila's cost by the same 12%. And when I do that, I end up finding that the total cost of the plan is $19,175. I mean, that's a lot of money that the employer is going to end up paying. You're only paying 12%. You're only paying the $2301, well, Mila is anyways. And the remaining amount is going to be what her employer pays. So the question actually asks us, how much does Mila contribute for her coverage? Well, Mila contributes to $23,001, but if we wanted to know what her employer contributes, we take the $19,175, subtract Mila's portion of $23,001, and we end up seeing that the employer pays $16,874. So in other words, that's an additional compensation that you're receiving from your employer as a benefit rather than in your salary. You're getting health coverage where the employer's paying another $16,000, almost $900 to cover you for medical instead of you having to come out of pocket. So it doesn't come out as salary. All right, lastly, we're going to do this algebraically. So Mila gets X dollars out of her paycheck weekly or bi-weekly, and then her portion for her portion of the healthcare costs. So if Mila is contributing P% of the total cost, represent this in terms of X and Y. So we're going to basically do the same thing we did last time. We're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to take her total dollar amount that she's earning, right? She's getting pulled out X dollars per month or per check. And I'm going to have to multiply that by 26 to get the total amount that Mila is paying into the plan. So if I take her portion that she's being paid per paycheck, multiply it by 26, that's the total amount that she's essentially paying into the plan. And if I know she's being, it's only P% of the total cost, I take that number and I divide it by P, because that's what I did with the original formula, 2301 divided by the percentage of her plan. So I'm doing the same thing. 26x represents Mila's portion divided by the P percentage, and that's going to give me the total amount of the plan for Mila's healthcare. Question number 3. So we got Heather's pension, and it's calculated as follows. So she's going to earn 1.5% of her average salary for the last 5 years of employment for every year worked. So Heather earned $88,900, $92,200, $96,000, $98,000, and $102,000. So if she worked 25 years, calculate her pension. So here's how the pension plan works essentially. First, we need to find the average of those 5 years. So we got $88,900, and we're going to add that to the $92,200, add that to the $96,000, add that to the $98,000, and add that to the $102,000. Right? And to find the average, since there's 5 different year salaries here, we take all those and divide them by 5. And when we do that, we find out that the average salary for the last 5 years is $95,420. That's the average of the last 5 years. Now, our question says that she's going to receive 1.5% of her average annual salary for the last 5 years. So I take that $95,420, and I'm going to multiply that by, if I turned 1.5% into a decimal, it's going to be 1.5 cents. That's 0.015. So if I multiply that 95,420 by 0.015, I end up getting $1,431.30. That represents what her portion of her percentage that she's earning for her pension. Now I take that amount, right? This is 1.5% of her average annual salary for the last 5 years. And whatever that dollar amount is, I'm going to multiply that by the number of years worked, right? So in our example here for Heather, she worked a total of 25 years. So we're going to take that basis of $1,431.30, and we're going to multiply that by the number of years worked, which is 25 years. And that ends up coming out to be $35,782.50. This is going to be her annual salary of her pension after she retires. So notice this is a big jump, right? She used to make an average of 95, and when she retires, she's going to make 35. So this is going to tell you that you really need to plan for retirement. Don't depend on that pension unless you understand that you're getting a huge pay cut when it comes to retirement time. Alright, the algebraic portion. So if you earn 2% of the average salary for the last 3 years of employment times the number of years worked, and you earned A, B, and C dollars the last 3 years, calculate the pension for working D years. Okay, so all we got to do here is take our 2%, that's 0.02, multiply it by the number of years worked, right? That's what we ended up doing, multiply it by the number of years worked. and we get the number of years worked, whatever the number of years that we worked, D years, we have to multiply that by the average of the salaries, right, divided by, the average of the salaries. So that means that we're going to multiply the 2% of whatever the number of years worked times A plus B plus C, and since there's 3 years, we're going to divide that by 3. So we find the average of the salaries, whatever that is, we multiply it by the 2%, multiply it by the 0.02, and then we multiply that amount by the number of years worked, which is essentially what we did in the problem above. We found the average first. Once we take the average, we multiply it by the percentage that we earn, and then whatever that weekly amount is, we multiply it by the number of years worked. Last one, example number 4. So in James's state, the weekly unemployment compensation is 60% of the 26-week average for the 2 highest salary quarters. A quarter is, by the way, 3 consecutive months. So from July to September, he earned $9,024. From October to December, he earned $9,800. What's James's unemployment compensation? So to start this problem, we need to first figure out what the average is, what the total is for his 2 consecutive quarters. So we're going to take that $9,024 and add it to the $9,800 for a total of $18,824. That's the total he earned from the highest 2 consecutive quarters, or at least that's the 2 consecutive quarters that they gave us. Once we have the 18,826, now that's half a year. 2 quarters would be half of the year. So if we take that $18,824 and we divide it by 26, that's going to give us his average weekly salary, which comes out to be $724. So now we know how much he was making for per week. And now in James's state, it says the weekly unemployment compensation is 60% of the 26-week average. So now we found the week average of $724, and unemployment's going to pay him 60% of that. So we multiply the 724 times 0.60, and we end up getting $434.40. That is going to be James's weekly unemployment amount that he's going to get from his paychecks. It's quite a pay cut. He was making $724, and after unemployment, he only makes 60% of that, which is about $434.40. Now, to finish this off algebraically, your weekly unemployment compensation is $360. All right, $360. What were the 2 highest consecutive quarters? So we just got to work this backwards. They're telling us what his compensation rate was. So it was $360 is what he's going to get. Since we multiplied our original amount by 60% to get to our point, now we got to work it backwards. So we're going to take that $360 divided by 60%, which comes out to be $600. And then you take that $600 and you multiply it by the 26 weeks, or the half a year that you're trying to calculate, and you end up with $15,600, which represents the 2 consecutive quarters. Now I don't know what he made each quarter, but that's the total of the 2 consecutive quarters. So that's going to finish up the chapter here. Basically what it comes down to is your employer is going to offer you some sort of benefits that are going to be beneficial to you, but they're not necessarily coming into your pocket in the form of cash. They're going to be other things that you get on top of your salary, but understand that because they are benefits and they must be paid to you, they are not paycheck. That's one of the reasons why your paycheck won't go up. You're giving up one for the other. You're getting some benefits, but minimizing your salary. And I just want to make sure I have this perfectly clear, make sure that I reiterate this over and over. It's not your boss's job to make you rich. That is on you. So take these benefits. They're very helpful, especially when you have a family. And learn from it. Go out and build your business and go make some more money. Peace. And I'm out.